Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us for our final security briefing of the day. We have the pleasure of having Ron Ford join us, who has spoken at many of our events. Ron, it's great having you. Ron is the Regional Cybersecurity Advisor for CISA with the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. So Ron, I will go ahead and let you take it away.
Great. Thank you so much, Megan. So again, I'm Ron Ford. I'm the Cybersecurity Advisor here in New England for the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency under the Department of Homeland Security. CISA is the pinnacle for national risk management and cyber and physical infrastructure. We advance the national risk management agenda more than any single agency in the US government. And since no single stakeholder has all the information necessary to detect or comprehensively manage systemic risk, CISA's information sharing and coordination role and the ability to engage policy and decision makers are essential to success in our shared Homeland Security mission. So again, CISA, we love security so much that we put it in our name twice. As you can see, our overall goals are really to defend today and to secure tomorrow. CISA has three strategic goals. First, we must defend civilian networks and secure federal facilities. Second, we must help manage systemic risks to national critical functions. And third, we must raise the security baseline by providing stakeholders with the tools and resources they need to secure infrastructure. We must foster voluntary incentive-driven partnerships with a wider range of stakeholders. So we just embarked upon National Cybersecurity Awareness Month this past October. It was a great success. We had a lot of promotion, a lot of efforts for collaboration and partnership throughout the month. You're probably wondering, if you haven't heard of it, what is it all about? So, held every October for the last 17 years now, National Cybersecurity Awareness Month is a collaborative effort between government and industry, reaching from the White House down to the individual to raise awareness about the importance of cybersecurity and to ensure that all Americans have the resources they need to be safer and more secure online. So we lead this effort. It's a month-long effort alongside with our private sector partners, the National Cybersecurity Alliance. We also continue to work closely with our partners at all levels: federal government, industry, international partners, small and medium-sized businesses, and state, local, tribal, and territorial governments, all with the aim to enhance the national cybersecurity posture by engaging with staff, communities, and the public. CISA, through Cybersecurity Awareness Month, is working to create a safer and more secure and resilient cyber world. So, just want to give you a few tidbits of how you can protect yourselves when you're online. The first, secure your networks. Wireless routers are a way for cyber criminals to access online devices. Secure your Wi-Fi by changing your factory set default router password and your username. If you connect it, protect it. One proven defense against intrusion is updating the latest virus protection software. If you are putting something into your device, such as a USB or an external hard drive, make sure your device's security software scans it for viruses and malware. Stay up to date. Keep your software updated to the latest versions and set security software to run regular scans. Secure your web browsers and operating systems by turning on automatic updates so that you don't have to think about it. Last, double your login protection, enabling multi-factor authentication to ensure that the only person who has access to your account is you. MFA is an extra layer of protection for your accounts. Often it is in the form of a text, an email, or an automated phone call received after you've entered your password to confirm that you are, in fact, you, and it's not someone unauthorized trying to log into your account. So who is CISA? What do we do? Well, we do quite a bit. So CISA, we really focus on a lot of key areas. Our work gathers the best of cybersecurity and infrastructure security knowledge and practices, and we share that knowledge to enable better risk management. We provide a unifying framework for national infrastructure protection that presents a common understanding of risk and enables the necessary collaboration among diverse stakeholders. So you're probably wondering, where does CISA reside under the DHS umbrella? Well, CISA has been around in name for over 2 years now. We are on the same operating capacity as FEMA, as Secret Service, as Customs and Border Patrol, as Coast Guard, amongst others. So we have a lot of authorities that we've been given over the few years. CISA has been around in another name for over 15 years now. We've been a part of the headquarters element, but as of 2 years ago, cybersecurity and infrastructure security were given the authority and the urgency that it needed to operate so that we could be better stewards and better custodians of information sharing and partnership. As you can see at the bottom of the slide here, we have authority over various federal, civilian, executive branch agencies and departments. I'm not going to name them all, but as you can see, in terms of cybersecurity, we've expedited and accentuated the urgency and importance of a federal cybersecurity posture. And how do we do that? Well, we do that internally as well. We work with the other federal departments and agencies to ensure that their cybersecurity posture is where it needs to be so that we can continue to protect those critical assets. So I'm not going to go through the entire list here, but these are just some of the regulatory actions and statutes and policies that we have in place. Now, the one I want to focus on here is the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency Act. That was the codified law signed by Congress that gave us our authorities to ensure and to raise the priority in which cybersecurity needs. So a little bit more about CISA, what we do. We act as a nation's risk advisors, working with our partners to defend against today's threats and collaborating to build and secure a more resilient infrastructure. The threats we face, both digital and physical, as well as man-made and technological and natural, are more complex. And the threat actors are becoming more diverse than any point in our history. CISA is at the heart of mobilizing a collective of defense and offensive capabilities to lead the nation's efforts to understand and manage our critical risk. So within the cybersecurity division, we are responsible for enhancing the security and resiliency and reliability of the nation's cyber and communications infrastructure. The cybersecurity division actively engages the public and private sectors, as well as international partners, to prepare and prevent and respond to catastrophic incidents that could degrade or overwhelm strategic assets. As the sector-specific agency for communications and for information technology sectors, our cybersecurity division coordinates national-level reporting that is consistent with the National Response Framework. So I wanted to give you just a snapshot of how our cybersecurity advisor program is deployed across the country. As you can see, where I am here in the Northeast, I am the lone person, but we are continuing to grow our team. We are a small field force with a lot of support behind us from CISA and from our other federal partners as well. If you're interested in learning more about your cybersecurity advisor in your region, feel free to contact us. So you're probably asking, so what do you focus on? Well, we focus a lot on critical infrastructure. As you can see, approximately half of the critical infrastructure sectors that we've designated as important are managed by DHS. Now, a part of our mission, again, is to lead that national effort. So our stakeholders, again, include our federal departments and agencies, those state and local and tribal and territorial governments, and our critical infrastructure owners and operators. Realizing that 80% of critical infrastructure is owned and operated by the private sector. So we rely heavily on our voluntary programs and partnerships to engage. So critical services, they are absolutely critical. Now you might be wondering, so what goes into critical services? Well, a lot in terms of the assets and the operations. We try to define those assets in terms of the people, the information, the technology, and the facilities that goes into supporting those services and businesses. Now, when a disruption occurs, and it probably will occur at some point, the organization should determine what level of priority they should give to those critical services, as well as the associated risks to the mission. Now, when the process is disrupted or technology or other services are impacted, what we try to rely on is operational resilience. And stepping into the next slide here, we're going to talk a little bit more about that. So in terms of working towards cyber resilience, what we try to focus on is building in processes so that if and when a disruption happens, that you can identify those key critical services, as well as create an asset inventory, then protecting and sustaining those assets, as well as managing those disruptions. And then at the end, you're able to take those lessons learned, provide them into a process so that you can improve upon your operational maturity and resilience. So we're talking about business continuity plans. We're also talking about disaster recovery plans as well. And if you are robust and mature enough, you probably might have a cybersecurity incident plan as well. So what we try to rely on is building a framework and a process for organizations to rely upon when there are these types of disruptions. So going a little bit further into managing resilience. Again, we love to rely on processes and frameworks. So the key for us here is to try to institute some type of process, whether it's very straightforward and simplistic, or again, if you're more mature and robust, having a more comprehensive process that you can rely upon. Now, I'm not going to go into every one of these processes here in terms of controls management or service continuity or incident management, but as you can see, it's a circle. It never ends. It's continuous. It's a continuous improvement framework. Whether you are detecting incidents or whether you're trying to establish and maintain a service continuity program, it all relies upon this cyclical process. So you might be asking, what do we focus on? Well, we focus a lot on capable cyber actors. And what do I mean by that? Well, what we really mean by that is we take a look at a lot of the incidents that have happened previously, and then we determine based on intelligence information and other supporting data to understand the complexities of these different cyber criminals and cyber actors. Now, from the chart here, you can see from left to right and top to bottom, you can see the extent of the different types of malicious actors, as well as what types of capabilities and actions that they're trying to perpetrate. Now, you can see to the far left here about nation states and what their capabilities are. They're fairly robust and very mature. Now, if we go to the far right here in terms of capabilities and targeted activities, you can see that terrorists tend to be less sophisticated, but they are all critically important to us in terms of who we should be analyzing and trying to protect against. So I wanted to go just a little bit into those nation state advanced persistent threats. And those are the organizations that are posed with mature and capable resources. They are an effective adversary that we see time and time again. They aim to disrupt a lot of the services and a lot of the capabilities that this nation has. So we're talking about looking back at those 16 critical infrastructure sectors and what their targets are. So if we go from right to or left to right, we can see that Russia is probably the most comprehensive cyber operations program. With their aim is, their history has been to disrupt and cause destructive attacks. China, they're capable of cyber attacks that cause localized and temporary disruption. If we look at Iran, they use a lot of social media platforms to target US and allied audiences. And then North Korea is very famous for the WannaCry ransomware incident from 2017, where they affected critical infrastructure sectors. Now, because we have information at our fingertips, we have the Internet of Things, where we have so much information to help inform our daily decisions, both in our professional lives and in our personal lives, that also introduces a growing risk in terms of how that data is being protected, how that data is being used, who has access to it. So we also need to take that into consideration as we introduce more technology into our lives. So I'm going to jump a bit into our CISA resources and our core competencies. I like to foot stomp this in terms of best practices. Now, we have all heard of best practices in our professional lives, but I love to foot stomp these because these are, I feel, that are fairly straightforward. And I'm going to lead with the last one in terms of creating and leveraging partnerships. Now, what I mean by this is, if you have cybersecurity vendors that you're interested in, or you have other external dependencies regarding your operations, if they're outsourced to a cloud service, you want to leverage that relationship. You want to understand, how are they protecting your data and information? What's their priority for restoration of your critical services? Those are things that you need to understand and have outlined before something happens. Now, you will never know when the boom or when the incident takes place, but it's always good and beneficial and worthwhile to your business and organization to do those things as soon as possible. Now, in terms of leadership, leadership has to support and own the issue. They can't be left out of the dark. Boards of directors also need to be informed. Cybersecurity is now a global issue. Cyber threats continue to evolve. They disrupt businesses. So leadership has to be a part of that conversation, as well as cybersecurity professionals need to be involved in that conversation as well. Talking about good cyber hygiene and blocking and tackling, we look at those things as, if you look at them in terms of your body and your overall hygiene, you have standard practices that you do. Now, we want to translate that over into the cybersecurity landscape, where you're doing the automatic backups, you're doing the virus updates, and you're doing the virus scans. Those are all things that will help reduce the likelihood that an impact will be widespread, as well as helping you to restore your operations in a quicker time than it would if you weren't doing some of those good cyber hygiene activities. So risk management. Risk management is really something that we try to promote in terms of, what are organizations willing to accept? How can they manage the risk? Whether they are outsourcing some of their services, or if they are mitigating them inside, as well as some of the things that they just can't mitigate. That all needs to be worked out in terms of risk management. And when we talk about risk management in terms of cybersecurity, that should be a part of the overall risk management posture to organizations. Being prepared. So once all this is done and you've locked down the doors and thrown away the keys, now you're ready to exercise and see how well someone can either break into your systems, or you can do a tabletop exercise where you have key leadership who are able to talk through what their roles are, what their activities and decisions could possibly be in the event that a cyber incident is taking place. Last but not least, this goes along with the cyber hygiene, is being able to defend and continue to operate. Now, given the fact that cyber threats occur every single day, it's really important to understand what are the capabilities that the organization has and how well will the organization be able to defend as well as continue to operate at a new level of service. And that's what I consider making your own luck, taking all this comprehensively and piecing it out so that you can take these into small, digestible bites so that you can continue and make your organizations more robust and more secure. So I'm just going to go a little bit into our samples of offerings from both a cybersecurity side as well as from a protective security side as well. So all of the resources that CISA offers, they are voluntary. We are offering our services at no cost. Your participation in any of our services or resources or materials is completely up to you. We hold no regulatory authority in cybersecurity. The only authority we have is within chemical hazards, and that's a totally separate conversation. But as we focus on cybersecurity, we try to focus on preparedness. And how do we do that? Well, from the cybersecurity advisor standpoint, we use advisory services. We consult with organizations, both small, medium, and large. We also provide cyber risk assessments, both from a technical and strategic standpoint. We also do working group collaboration. We also promote best practices, and we provide incident assistance and coordination. From the protective security advisor standpoint, this is the physical security standpoint that we're talking about. We also do physical security assessments as well. We also provide incident liaisons from our PSAs between government and private sector. And we also help to facilitate and coordinate national special security events. Now, I'm not going to go into all of our risk, our cybersecurity assessment resources here, but I wanted to point out that we offer these things and resources from both a strategic and technical standpoint. Now, you don't have to be the most technically proficient person to participate in these. All we ask is that you bring in a multitude and diverse group of staff and personnel who help to support the critical services. Now, you might be asking yourself, well, I don't know if the logistics person is directly involved in, our technology. Well, I would say they probably do, because when you are acquiring different resources and services from private sector vendors, you should probably think about what are those security requirements of the different technology solutions and the hardware and the software that you're going to be purchasing. Have you fed those security requirements to the acquisition person as well? So I'm going to go quickly through these, but I wanted to just outline our core competencies about incident response, incident management, and response. So on average, we receive over 106,000 cyber incident reports from federal partners and critical infrastructure partners. Last year alone, we provided 23 on-site responses to cyber incidents and identified over 129,000 cybersecurity vulnerabilities through our scans and vulnerability assessments. Now, you might be asking, that's a lot. It absolutely is a lot. And we are just one of the partners who helps to analyze these incidents. Now, we work a lot with our federal partners from the FBI, from the NSA, as well as with our private sector vendors as well. It's a collaborative environment in terms of incident management and response. We cannot do this alone. We rely on our state partners as well as our private sector partners to help us. We can't save everybody, so we have to have a team effort for this. Information and data sharing. Again, the information and data that we gather is voluntarily shared with us. We also have our own subscriptions and connections to our third-party vendors and partners as well. So we tend to focus on us as a focal point, but we are also a disseminator of information, as well as joint advisories and alerts and bulletins that you all might be signed up for as well. Partnership development. This is our bread and butter. CISA fosters a collaborative partnership through our various programs to help to navigate through some of those complex conversations, as well as create shared awareness and provide necessary resources to keep an organization strong and resilient. When thinking about partnership development, it's important to understand that CISA coordinates strategies and policies through the Critical Infrastructure Partnership Advisory Council, also known as a CPAC, of 9 of the 16 critical infrastructure sectors. So that includes dams, nuclear, commercial facilities, critical manufacturing, emergency services, chemical, communications, government facilities, and information technology. Network defense. So CISA develops new processes and tools to ultimately provide awareness of what the threat is to help inform key decisions by our partners. We do this on a daily basis. Given the number of physical and cyber threats to the American people and property, CISA continues to strengthen new processes, new tools, and new technologies to assess those vulnerabilities while planning for the potential consequences that might result if those threats become a reality. Last year, we conducted over 24 CyberStat program assessments with our federal agencies and partners. Capacity building. So CISA's capacity building involves offering assistance with training and security exercises in both the public and private sector. By providing free technical assistance and tools and exercises and programs to our nation, we help build awareness of an evolving threat, as well as increased understanding of what steps to take to mitigate these threats. So some examples of that: in 2018, we conducted over 570 active shooter preparedness briefings, 60 workshops, and nearly 2,700 assist visits. These are physical site visits across the country, which focused on coordinating, training, and education on active shooter incidents. Now, also, we provided 71 cybersecurity risk and vulnerability assessments and 40 assist in cyber incident response and coordination through the Cybersecurity Advisor Program. So I know I've talked about a lot during this conversation, and I thank you for taking time to view this. What I wanted to leave you with is, first, my contact information, but also I wanted to emphasize the importance of working together, developing those partnerships with organizations within your industry, as well as cross-industry, so that we can all work together to make a more resilient nation. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ron. So we have a few minutes for you for a couple questions. So one that everyone wants to know is, will the slides be shared?
Yes, the slides will be available. Yes.
Perfect. Um, who should organizations call when there is an incident?
Ah, the great question that I always receive. So, what we really emphasize from CISA and from the federal government's point of view is that you call who you're comfortable with, whether it's your local law enforcement or whether it's the town clerk or it's the third party security vendor that you have on contract. We want you to call. Doesn't matter who, but we want you to call. So we really like to see people engage with their vendors, also with their local officials and state government officials as well. So when there's an incident that's occurring, we want you to make the call. So it doesn't rely on who you're calling, because if you call the FBI or you call DHS, you're most likely going to get us as well as other people behind us to support you on the incident. So the key thing there is to make the call, and someone will assist you as resourceful as possible.
Cool. Is there a threshold or requirement to meet to qualify for CIS's resources? Can anyone take advantage of these, or is there a requirement?
Great question. Great question. So because we deal with and manage a lot of information and threats and incident coordination, the threshold is fairly robust for us in terms of if there is an incident that's taking place that disrupts a community or resources that has a nexus in terms of public health and public safety, then we will consider that as well. And so there's some calculus that goes into what we do on the inside. But I would say if you are a level 1 trauma center, or you are a major water facility or a major financial services organization, we deal with a lot of the larger organizations that are too big, that if they were to be disrupted or degraded in services, that they would have a significant impact to the communities that they serve. So we like to use that framework in terms of who should reach out to us. Now, we will take in all calls. We won't reject or turn away anybody. But in terms of our level of support, it really has to hit that national level or regional impact for us to provide service and support.
Got it. Awesome. Well, I think that's just about all the time we have, but it was a pleasure having you as always. Hopefully, at some point in the future, we'll be able to see you again in person. But until then, it's always a pleasure, and we love having you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Megan.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you, Ron. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Take care, stay safe, stay healthy.